Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just got done watching Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is kind of a crazy thing to say, considering, like, every time I think about this franchise, I gotta remember where it started. You know, when that first trailer came out with Ugly Sonic, and the internet went crazy, and the studio panicked and delayed the movie for, like, what, 4 months, and went back and re-edited the whole thing with a new Sonic design, and you know, here we are with Sonic 3. We've, you know, like, I know that at the time there was a lot of discussion about, like, oh, are you overworking your animators? You know, is catering to, you know, online fandoms who yell and complain about everything, is that a bad thing? I know there's still a lot of opinions about that, but I think maybe in just this one instance, like, I think probably the only instance I can think of, you can't really argue with these results. You know what I mean? like let's be honest. If they had kept that ugly Sonic design, we would not be talking about a Sonic 3 right now. And I think I saw a headline saying, "Oh yeah, we're already working on Sonic 4 for like 2027 or something." So I don't know. It's just like it's kind of amazing that, like, okay, this one time they actually, like, all right, we're gonna listen to the fans, we're gonna put in all this extra money, do all this extra work, and it's worked for them, like, by miles and miles. Anyways, Sonic 3, yeah, this is the one that, of course, is lifting a lot from Sonic Adventure 2 from the Dreamcast, and I gotta tell you guys, this is the Sonic game that I, you know, like a lot of people, I hold closest to my heart, right? Like, you know, I grew up with the Sega Genesis when I was a small child. I played Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, and, you know, I remember playing those games. Of course, I was always second player, so I had to play as Tails because my older brother was Sonic, and that's just the way things were. But, you know, Sonic Adventure 2, we both played the hell out of that game. Of course, it had the multiplayer modes and racing and combat and all that stuff, and hunting for the, you know, the shards of the Master Emerald and all that. So, you know, when you're doing Shadow and all, you know, everything like that, it's of course gonna, like, pique my interest, and a lot of people that are pretty similar in age to me. And I gotta congratulate this film franchise on being able to, you know, it has two audiences. It has small children who, you know, they know who Sonic is, but they didn't grow up with the Sega Genesis. You know, like, these kids grew up playing the Switch or something, you know. But it also has people in their mid to late 20s or even early 30s like me, who, like, oh yeah, I was 10 years old playing the Dreamcast, and I see Shadow the Hedgehog and all this Sonic Adventure 2 stuff, and Gerald Robotnik and Space Colony Arc and all that. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is my shit. Like, this is, like, what it was for me for, like, a while, you know, like those fundamental years. Sonic Adventure 2, that was the stuff. So I don't know, I gotta say they did a great job balancing those two audiences. You know, like, you can tell, like, obviously these are children's movies, right? But the jokes, especially, you know, huge thanks to Jim Carrey, the jokes still land more often than not. You know, the action sequences are actually pretty great in this one. You know, like, a lot of those Shadow versus Sonic moments, you know, they have several fight sequences. They're all pretty great. And even though it's definitely still got some of that, like, okay, this is a children's movie kind of energy, and they soften some of the edges that happen in the video game, especially, you know, concerning a certain thing. They did a pretty damn good job of being able to incorporate a lot of stuff from that game specifically and adding it to the context of the film's universe, you know, the way that the story is played out in the movies. So it's not one-to-one, but they managed to pretty impressively, like, put in a lot of stuff that works within the logic of the universe that they've built for the movies. So yeah, just overall, this is a great time. Like, obviously, I think if you loved the first two movies, this is even better than those two. It's even more, like, it looks, every one of these movies that comes out looks closer and closer to the video games, you know. And I think that's another thing that's kind of amazing when I think about the the Mario movie, right? Like he goes to the Mushroom Kingdom. Everything there looks exactly like it does in the video games, right? And that's it. It's the Mushroom Kingdom. They got the bricks, they got the castle, they got all of it, right? But the Sonic movies kind of had to work in reverse, because in the very first Sonic movie, he leaves what looks like the video game world, you know, like the big loop-de-loops and the grass and the, you know, the checker patterns everywhere. Like, he leaves that world and comes to Earth. And, you know, you go back and watch that first movie, and there's not a whole lot of Sonic the Hedgehog video game iconography everywhere. Really, it's just him, and you're introduced to a Robotnik that doesn't even look like Robotnik yet. His technology only kind of resembles robot, you know, Eggman technology that you see in the video games. And each successive movie, all the way up to now, is like we keep on getting more and more stuff that, like, oh, that looks just like the video game. They got this character from the video game. They you know, like, even though we're on Earth, you know, now we have Gun, the government agency that they introduced in the last movie. Like, all of this stuff is starting to look more and more like the way it does in the video game. So basically they're reverse engineering the way of, like, okay, you had our normal world, which, by the way, was the trend for a while. You know, you had the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies and the Garfield movies or whatever else. So, like, you had a bunch of movies where, like, okay, we're gonna take a cartoon character, but what if that cartoon character came to Earth, and now Earth people have to react to this cartoon character? You know, like your Fat Albert movie and stuff like that, right? Your Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. My point is, they kind of did that with Sonic, but instead of just having it be like, okay, so we got a cartoon character here on our normal world and we're reacting to that, now our world's kind of slowly becoming the video game world, and that's pretty cool. Like, they're doing it. They're doing the thing, especially by the end of this one. The after credits sequence happens and you're like, okay, we're just here now. We're just in the video game world. It's happening. It's pretty neat. So, yeah, just overall, I love a lot of the stuff that they did here. Shadow, of course, is awesome. All the voice actors do a great job. Keanu Reeves is able to really sell a lot of the tragedy and the anger behind that. And the lesson is, you know, it's very Star Wars, I would say. You know, like, don't let your grief and your anger consume you and, you know, make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. You know, like, being good is all about choices. You know, like, what choices you make is really what defines you, kind of thing. And, you know, all these great lessons for people of any age to learn, right? And they handle all that really, really well. And we even get some pretty surprising moments, I would say. You know, like some actual, like, heartfelt stuff, but they do a good job of kind of bringing it back to remind you, like, this is still a comedy movie. Like, more than anything, like, yeah, we got the video game stuff going on, we got some of the more serious, dramatic moments that happen on occasion, but this is overall just a comedy, you know? And while normally, I think, like, in a Marvel movie, it might feel like they're undercutting the drama, like they're, like, scared to get too serious. In this one, I think because it's still trying to serve that, you know, little kid audience that's gonna watch this, it actually works. It actually helps a lot that, like, oh man, serious moment. Oh, but here's Jim Carrey kind of fighting with himself, you know, and doing, like, goofy stuff, you know. So I'm like, okay, it's balancing, it's working. They know what the movie is. I think more than anything, these movies know what they are. They're comedies, they're kids movies, but also they're like, but hey, you 20, 30-year-old who played the video game, we got you, and we're gonna slowly make it more and more like the video game. The clothes that people are wearing, the suits, the technology that they're using, it's all gonna look more and more like the video game. You know, we're getting further away from Earth stuff. So yeah, overall, pretty great. They did a damn great job. I do want to get into some spoilers, so we're gonna go into that, but just overall, really great. You're gonna love it if you like the other two. I think you'll love this one probably more than any of them, and hopefully it just keeps getting better. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into some spoilers. Here we go. So, I think the first spoiler is that there is no giant space lizard. You know, and I think when I saw the trailer for this, I was a little concerned, like, oh, you're not gonna do the space lizard, the prototype to the perfect life form. They don't do that. And honestly, having seen the movie play itself out, that's okay. Not a big deal. It would have been a lot. Like they were able to like have the giant laser from Space Colony Arc shoot at the Earth, and they have to divert it, and it hits the moon, and like that was enough of a thing. Like they didn't need to have giant lizard on top of that, so I'm okay with that. Second thing, Shadow's origin is slightly changed. Instead of him being a creation by Gerald Robotnik, instead he was found in a meteorite that crashed on Earth, and then the scientists and Gerald Robotnik used him for experiments, and they just kept him captive and all that. So, you know, just a slight alteration. Like, they said he is the perfect life form, right? But like they basically made him an alien, just like Sonic was from a different planet in this universe. So now, you know, Shadow's also from some other planet. They didn't really dive into, so what are they? Where did this all come from? They haven't really explained any of that. So, you know, one day they will. They kept on dropping, you know, Long Claw. They kept on reminding the audience, like, hey, remember in the first movie, he was raised by this owl person, and he came from this planet that looks like the Sega Genesis world, and, you know, like, we still don't know what any of that was in his explorations, but I'm okay with that. In fact, it kind of like, if every movie they kind of drop a little bit more and try to, you know, one day we will get that explanation as to what was happening. That would be pretty cool. You know, like right now we're still kind of, there's a lot of guesswork. Like I remember the Echidna Warriors were attacking Longclaw at the beginning of that first movie. So like, what's up with that? I don't know. You know, Knuckles, I don't remember. I need to watch Sonic 2 again. I don't remember if Knuckles ever addressed that. But in any case, it's pretty interesting of a change to make, and I'm sure they have some idea or plan for why they would do that. So who knows? And then the other thing, so this movie, they do, you know, Robotnik and Jim Carrey's playing two characters, Gerald and Ivo Robotnik, and they have a lot of goofing off. A lot, you know, they have a dance sequence. They have this big fight that they use their technology against each other at the end, because of course Gerald is even more evil, and he just wants to destroy the planet, and literally, like, they're gonna destroy themselves, and everyone's just gone. And of course, Ivo's like, "Whoa, hey, I'm, you know, I want to conquer the planet. I don't want to destroy it. I'm not, you know, I'm not that evil. Come on, you know." And so he ends up having to fight against him, and they defeat Gerald. But you know, Dr. Robotnik, our Dr. Robotnik, he gets kind of like a really like satisfying send off where he, you know, he stays on the base and he helps Shadow like save, you know, get enough time to push the space colony far away enough before it explodes and destroys the Earth. And you know, like, and of course, you know, it's a video game movie. Is he really dead? Probably not, but at least for now, if Jim Carrey decides to not come back, that's probably a good way to send him off, I think. You know, like if Jim Carrey's like, I'm done with these, I'm satisfied with that. You know, like we got a solid 3 movies. He got to be like the real Robotnik, but he ended up being able to save the day and, you know, help save the Earth. And I'm like, that's not a bad way to send him off. That's pretty good. So I would be satisfied even if he's like, oh, I don't want to come back for number 4. I'm okay. Like, I'm like, you know what? you earned it. That was a good way to send off. I didn't feel like there was any lingering like character things to fulfill. Like, you did a great job. And then we have let's talk about the mid-credit sequence. And this is, I call it mid-credits, but I don't think the credits even start. I think like the movie ends and then it's like the credits are about to start, but then like, oh no, wait, quick, there's a like, here's a scene right here. So it's barely mid-credits. I think it's just the epilogue of the movie. So Sonic goes on another race. They give like their ending thing, and it's like, oh, the movie's wrapping up, it's over. But then he runs so far past the finish line of the race. He's in New York now, and he gets attacked by Metal Sonic, and the theater went wild seeing Metal Sonic. Like, people were losing their minds, and then a bunch of Metal Sonics show up, and it's not clear who sent these Metal Sonics. You know, maybe this is our indication that Robotnik is alive. I don't know. But then a hammer gets thrown out of nowhere. A giant sledgehammer and takes out a bunch of Metal Sonics, and the person in the hood like drops their hood down, and of course it's Amy Rose, and the theater like exploded, you know. And by the way, the theater that I saw this in, this is with 20-30 year olds, right? Like it's not, this was not like a theater full of like small children. Like this was people my age coming opening night to see this movie, and they were losing their shit seeing Amy Rose show up. So yeah, just this franchise still has a lot of gas in its tank. There's still a lot of stuff that they can do and cover, and of course we get our final post-credit scene that shows Shadow walking up and getting his little bracelets back, so like he's still alive, of course. And yeah, just overall very satisfying, solid entry in this. It actually had heart. It had a lot of funny moments. The other thing is like the human characters. I feel like a lot of people got annoyed with the human characters, and especially the second movie. I think a lot of people were like, we don't need the humans as much. I gotta tell you, you know, I think especially because it was just Tom and what's her name, like it was just those two interacting, and they had to like pretend to, you know, they had to like infiltrate Gunn and go inside this government agency undercover and all that. Like those were actually pretty funny scenes. I'm like, you know what? These two are actually really funny together. So I did not mind them having their own little sequence in the movie at all. So yeah, just overall, I enjoyed it. I have no real complaints at all. Oh, I guess I should talk about the Maria thing. So the way they did Maria, and I figured that they would do this because, you know, unfortunately it's too much of a real world like thing that, okay, so in the video games Maria gets shot. Like the gun soldiers, they infiltrate Space Colony Ark, they're trying to arrest Gerald Robotnik, and she ends up getting shot. Now a very similar sequence happens, but instead of doing that, they have the soldier shoot a canister, and the canister explodes, and then she dies in the explosion. So, you know, they're like, let's curve that a little bit. Like, we don't, I mean, she still dies, so it's not like they soften the blow entirely by making her still alive or something. I think that would have ruined it. You know, that would have, Shadow needs that really messed up kind of dark edge to him in order to work as a character. So they still have that happen. And it's fine with me. Again, another change. I don't think it really changes anything about him as a character, so that's fine. So anyways, yeah, overall I really enjoyed that. Now we don't get any Rouge the Bat or any of those other side characters, but I'm sure they can always show up later, especially given how it feels like every movie is just going to end with them showing another character and being like, this is who we're going to get next time. So, you know, I guess in the next entry we're going to get Amy Rose and a bunch of Metal Sonics, and you know, like that's at least part of what we're going to try and figure out what's going on. Now hopefully eventually this movie, the movie universe, like tries to discover like, so what was up with Long Claw and that world that he originally came from, and where I guess wherever Shadow came from might be the same world now. But you know, he showed up 50 years earlier, so it would have, you know, obviously happened back then. So what is the deal? Where are these hedgehogs from? What's going on? You know, maybe one day they will answer that, or maybe keeping it a mystery helps them like just kind of riff, you know, as they go. Like just say like, okay, sure, this person's also from their planet. Why not? You know. So I don't know. Maybe they prefer it not being a fully answered thing. But in any case, yeah, I had a really good time with this. You know, if you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, there's still plenty of Easter eggs and references, and a lot of iconic moments that you're like, yep, I remember that part from the game, and I remember that thing. Yeah, I don't know. This was a really solid thing. I don't know what the box office is gonna be like, but I have to imagine that like they're gonna have a really nice Christmas weekend, I think. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about Sonic 3 and what your hopes are for Sonic 4, and what characters you hope to show up again. And obviously, like, do you think Jim Carrey's gonna come back? Because I feel like Jim Carrey's definitely like helping hold these movies together. Like, a lot of these comedic beats, especially the jokes that are like for for some of the older crowd, Jim Carrey's here to like, oh hey, yeah, because Jim Carrey, of course, was also part of our childhood. So having him here with the Sonic franchise kind of like helps link a lot of that nostalgia together. And so he's making these jokes, and I'm like, oh, Jim Carrey, you still got it, Anyways, let me know what you guys think about Sonic 3, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.